Hi, this is Peter Propp, and the timer just started.
Hi, I'm John Blossom, and welcome to another episode of 10-Minute Strategy. Today, it's the big acquisition that we're focusing on.
Absolutely.
Microsoft buys Skype for $8.5 billion, $3 billion of which, by the way, went into debt service, and for a company that was barely profitable under those circumstances. And yet, this promises to be a pretty big strategic move. The funny thing about this, I think, is that Peter's going to come from a different angle on this than we usually do.
Absolutely.
Google is potentially one of the beneficiaries of this in your mind. Tell us about that.
Right. Well, there's just a very interesting thing that's going on in the space. First of all, by Microsoft buying Skype, they have created a lot of people immediately who are now going to consider Skype as something they don't want to use because they have an inherent fear that's well-founded in many cases of anything that's owned by Microsoft. Microsoft has some bad habits in the software business, and we really don't know where they will take anything they buy or anything they invent. It's, you know, with the exception of perhaps Xbox and Office, there's been a lot of stuff that has made people very, very unhappy. Just ask anyone who has to reboot their machine.
So I think what you're talking about is anything but Microsoft is a very popular concept these days.
Absolutely, and there are people, for as soon as Microsoft owns Skype, they will be looking for alternatives to Skype. So yeah. That's one. The reason, so that puts Google in a great position because Google already has a terrific video platform. They already have a terrific email platform, and they have terrific chat function that you know, considering the pervasiveness of Gmail, and everyone with a Gmail account can be on chat, we're talking about a significant number of people who all of a sudden have a pervasive chat platform, and pervasive chat platforms are very few and far between.
Yeah.
You know, when I was at IBM, when they introduced chat, when they introduced instant messaging into the enterprise, the productivity gains were outstanding. The amount of work you can do when you just pop up to a friend, a boss, a colleague, say, quick question, how much do we owe so-and-so for X? Or what's the projection on Y? Or what's so-and-so's phone number? It's amazing how much work can get done when you can just interrupt people for a mini little bit of a question and get an answer.
And as I mentioned before we were shooting here in Content Nation, my book, I unearthed some research that quantified this, that people who have chat available in the workplace are quantifiably more productive.
So what happened though is when you get outside of IBM, which I have been outside of IBM for 2 years now, there really is not a pervasive chat platform. You know, AOL, Yahoo, you know, were trying. Microsoft was trying, now they'll have another one with Skype, but Google has a terrific chat capability, and I think they have an excellent opportunity to build up Google Chat, Google Video,
the video chat service.
The video chat service that most people use for Skype, Google Voice, which people use plenty, and turn it all into an integrated communications platform that is going to be very, very powerful.
I think that there's huge potential for Google to win on this, there's no question. Now, however, I have to put on the other side of the argument here, and to look at this objectively from an analyst perspective and say, why did they go out and do this? And I think there were some strong motivations that work for Microsoft in their own particular way, and that will help them in their own particular way. May not necessarily help revenue or margins in any significant way for a while, but they had some real strategic problems to solve. Number one, they were nowhere in chat. They were nowhere in video conferencing.
Right.
And they were nowhere in telephony.
Right.
You know, their Windows Phone 7, just in terms of a consumer product even, was a failing platform to the point where they had to pay big bucks to partner with Nokia. So, you know, they were nowhere, and Skype is in the middle of where all of that is going.
Right.
So $8.7 billion to get in the middle of all that is a pretty good bargain.
Right.
And considering that, you know, traditional telephony is going away, and that in the foreseeable future we can see voice over IP becoming the primary way that we're communicating, even in mobile situations. That positions them pretty well for the mobile market, as well as for the general communications on a person-to-person level that Skype offers. The other thing is enterprise software. There's a funny little thing here that people haven't necessarily picked up in the analyst circle, and that's that Skype is software.
Right.
It's good software. It's on all sorts of platforms. It's on mobile phones. It's on PCs. It's on Mac. It's on pretty much every darn machine that's out there.
Right.
But it's installed software. And the installed software that Microsoft has been selling us all these years, we're not using it for so many things anymore. It's not really the center of our universe. It's the stuff that our boss makes us create. You know, we have to do that report.
Right. You have to
sort of thing. We have to build that spreadsheet. But in terms of what really makes us, productive, tools like Skype are making us much more productive ahead of time. And having that enterprise imprimatur on top of Skype is going to help them be able to sustain their enterprise software business.
They will absolutely be able to compete more in the enterprise space. They will they will be able to be more viable in many cases.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be interesting for them.
It will be interesting. And there are two other legs I wanted to quickly mention. Social. There, Microsoft is nowhere in social.
Right.
And what do people say? Skype me. After Google me, and perhaps even before then, people are saying Skype me or Facebook me.
Right.
And nobody says Microsoft me.
Right.
So they need social logins.
Right.
And the only one that's out there on the street that they could buy was Skype.
Right.
So it kind of buys their way into that, and potentially it may, because of that, buy them into more video interactions on appliances in the home like Xbox.
Right. No, I think it's the right purchase for Microsoft. It's probably the right price.
Yeah.
But I think the opportunity now is Google's to take this competitive situation. It's almost like this purchase frees up Google to really focus on, we've got mail, we've got chat, we've got video, we've got voice, we've got the profiles that's starting in there. What can we do to grow into the Gmail window, the to-dos, make the to-dos a little more obvious, make the chat a little more obvious, figure out ways to get people to use those things more on a day-to-day basis, and I think that could be Google's real winner in this environment. It will be very interesting to watch.
And the timing, considering that Google will be announcing their new social initiatives in the next few months, Google, with circles and what have you integrated into that, that probably influenced some of the timing here for Microsoft as much as anything else, because they know that email is going to legacy. Google knows that. Google is going to reposition the inbox more as a social inbox. Through things like Google Profiles and what have you. So it was a reactive thing, and I have to agree with you that we're going to see a new sort of thing. Maybe we're going to still call it Gmail, maybe it's going to be called something else. Gmail isn't going to go away, but somehow Google in the cloud, rather than in the software installed business, is going to be the center of our personal communications.
Right. It's going to be very interesting. What else, when you look at the value of a deal, I think that's always interesting, right?
Yeah.
And you think about 8.5 million, it just seems like billion. It seems like such an enormous number. I mean, how do they even go about pricing that sort of stuff?
Yeah, well, I think they got skunked a little bit, there's no question.
Yeah.
Because Google was out there, and the street says that pretty much they were out there at $4 billion. They're basically saying, well, pay off your debt, and maybe you're worth $1 billion on top of that to us in terms of your realistic cash flow. So they certainly overpaid for it.
Right.
But once you factor out the debt service, it will probably be a going concern for a while. And I think it'll work out okay. It's not going to be a huge moneymaker. It's more of a strategic platform for them from which they may be able to integrate these other products that they have and get going on some sort of cylinder. Because right now they're just not firing on any significant cylinder at this point.
Right.
So, the valuation of it, definitely high from a practical standpoint. From a strategic standpoint, you can't buy market position with that money.
Right, they have a lot of cash. They have
Yeah.
a lot of cash still to play with. And I think there's people who believe the Windows 7 phone is going to be a strong player.
I think it will be.
So either combine the two and really make something work with Skype and the Windows 7 phone. And
in the meantime, have Skype being that cross-platform, everybody does it. presence that Microsoft has simply failed to be able to put together
Right.
may be a lever that's going to help them a lot.
Absolutely. Well, this has been a good conversation, John. For 10 Minute Strategy, this is Peter Prop. Visit us at shore.com.
Thanks very much. This is John Blossom. See you again.